whatever light or however God wants to exalt me, I'm gonna deflect it on him because it's not me. It's not through my strength. It's through his strength. You know what I'm saying? Like it's through him. So um, whatever ways God wants to use me, um, as far as, purpose and platform, just having that, a big platform, playing in the league like that. Um, I'm like people not gonna be able to get me to shut up about God, like to put it like that. Like I'm just gonna, you know, um, just do the best that I can to give him glory through all things that I do. It don't matter how many tackles, pick sixes, interceptions, whatever. Like it's all going back to God because God sat me down to build me up. And so that's what I feel like, you know, a part of his plan was for me, just to, sit me down, to humble me so that he can, rewire, my mind and, how I think, and just knowing that my reliance is in him, my strength is in him.
Welcome back to another episode of The Shift. I'm super excited just to be sitting in front of you in your cars, in your houses, wherever you are driving. I'm excited for you to in tune to another podcast of The Shift. Now, it's another episode, but today we have a guy straight out of Columbia, South Carolina, 3-star athlete, went on to play at Georgia Southern, then went on to play at West Virginia, and now is in the Canadian Football League. But we're going to talk more about his journey from going to Georgia Southern to West Virginia to now having a year out, but now God to bring him back to an opportunity for him to grant a lifetime of his life so he can get to the place that he's called to be. Alongside me today, my man, Anthony. What's up, my man? How you doing, boy?
Hey, I'm blessed. I can't complain.
Okay.
I appreciate you having me.
No, man, I appreciate you for coming on set, man. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm ready to tell my story, you know what I'm saying? Give God all the glory.
Yeah. Okay. So, I want to start off like you came out of, you played football, right? But in the mix of you playing football, you also went to Spring Valley, right?
Yeah.
But before you was at Spring Valley, you was at Carter Newman,
Hammond.
and Hammond.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you was at Hammond. And when you was at Hammond, man, you decided to make a change of Spring Valley where you played 2 more years. Why did you decide to make that change?
I just wanted to play with, not knocking the competition in private schools because it's a great competition, in private schools. But I wanted to play, for a bigger school, I'll say, with more varieties of competition and, whatnot.
Yeah. So like I want to go back to like tell me like how did football just start for you, just in that sense? Whenever you first did start. Let me just backtrack my steps a little bit. How did football start for you whenever you did get an opportunity to play on the field as a little kid?
Man, really, like, my mom and dad, they just signed me up. They put the ball in my hands, and I couldn't just put it down. It just stuck with me. Like, I just fell in love with the game. Like, from probably the first practice, the first time stepping on the field, like, just the camaraderie of the game, I feel like really, like, it drew me closer to falling in love with the game.
So whenever you did, I'm pushing back forward now. Now, whenever you did make that change to Spring Valley, I know the level of competition was different whenever you did walk through the doors, right? You had Chan on the stage, you had Keandre, you, Jalen Guy came in, What did you playing at that upper level do for you in the competition that you end up facing?
Even in the Bible it says, I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
but iron sharpens iron. And so like it's the same thing going to a school like Spring Valley, a lot of history, great players came, in and out of Spring Valley. And, that's how I looked at it. I'm gonna get better by coming here and, I'm gonna look to get my teammates better. And that's all what we did.
Yeah. So you became at Spring Valley your junior year, almost going to your senior. You became a 3-star athlete, right?
Yeah.
And with you being a 3-star athlete, that doesn't just come overnight. What was some of the workouts and some of the things that you had to go through to become a 3-star athlete?
Man, like I say, just looking back, like a lot of weekends that, I had to wake up in the morning, work out, had to, put aside doing what I want to do, like with my friends or something. Like I just had to sacrifice basically a lot of things over the weekend. After school too. Going to work out. At a facility downtown called Apex. Working out there, and just different things like that. But looking back, I'm grateful for sacrifices that that were made, and I feel like they're paying off.
So tell me, like, when you first became that three-star athlete, how did it feel to have some stars behind it? Because every kid don't get an opportunity to have stars behind their name. How did it feel for yourself when you
Honestly,
did feel with that?
yeah, it was a blessing. Just knowing that your hard work is paying off. It's really motivating, honestly, because it's like, why stop now? I got to keep going. So like, it's really like motivation, honestly. Once I, you know, saw that, I was getting some more and more recognition.
So after you became a three-star athlete, you had schools calling. You had West Virginia calling. You had Army calling. You had Coastal calling. How did you decide to make a decision to go to Georgia State?
Georgia.
Or Southern? I'm sorry, you're Southern.
um, Really, when I went up there for an official visit, me and my family, um, we just got the vibe. The vibe was just on point. I got that family feeling when I went up there, and you know, um, just the coaching staff, the players, everything seemed real genuine. And so I was like, why not? And it was only what, like 2 hours or 30 minutes from home. So that's an easy travel for my family to come up and watch me play. So it was a great position to be in.
So what was that feeling like when you first got an opportunity to just leave home and go just chase your dreams?
Man, I ain't gonna lie, I was out there like a chicken with my head cut off. Like
That's real though. That's real.
I ain't like, it was my first time away from home. Just like anybody going to college, like um, just figuring things out. Learning how to live on your own. You ain't got mama, you ain't got your pops. You know what I'm saying? Right there. Just you really gotta grow in that time.
Yeah. So what was it like when you had to put on some pads for the first time and now you playing against a different type of men? Because I know in my situation, when I went to Mississippi State, and put on them pads with them dudes, that was different. So what was it like when you first had to put on pads? Was football just still the same, or you feel like you had to adjust?
Man, I ain't gonna lie, like I never forget it. I had a fresh welcome to college moment freshman year.
Okay.
My first practice. I came up, tried to like lay the lumber on somebody, man. And I received that lumber. Like
Wow.
I got up so fast and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buckle my chin strap up a little tighter. And like, since that day, like, I came correct every time. But, it was definitely an adjustment, I say, because, you play, it's a grown man game. Like, you got guys that, were 4 or 5, 3 stars, at their respective high schools, and they may be just as good as you or better than you or anything, to that case. And so like the little things, it's the little things that really separate, you know, players, because the talent level, like you might have some guys that are more talented, but if a guy's more consistent or puts in more work, in the film room, or just take care of their body, little things like that really pays dividends, and it catches up to certain players.
So what did you know to really take care of your body? Because I know when I first came in, I ain't take care of my body. I was just going, going, going,
Yeah.
going. When did you know to start taking care of your body?
I would say like my freshman year, well, toward the end of my freshman year,
Okay.
as wear and tear goes on throughout the season and whatnot, like just playing a lot of snaps and different things like that. I say that's when I really started trying to, take care of my body, and as well looking, at the older guys that, are veterans on the team, that, had success.
Mm.
I learned kind of the ropes from them, I'll
Mm.
say.
So your freshman year, when you went in, you didn't get an opportunity to play right away.
Correct.
And I know, and from my defense and seeing you grow up and like us playing together at a younger age and growing all the way up to high school, you've always been in the spotlight. You've always walked in a room and played right away. Once somebody seen your talent for that freshman year, when you went to Georgia Southern, how were you able to just sit for a moment? And I want you to really just think back of the nights and them days where you really had to sit and you couldn't play and just practice for the whole year.
Yeah, I'll say it really was hard. Like it was very hard because it was an adjustment. Like I'm coming from, being used to playing every snap, high school, middle school, Pop Warner, whatever you name it. Just playing every snap and, just going to college my first year and being red-shirted, it was definitely an adjustment, and it took some time for me to, settle into my role and really embrace it. And, I had to shift my perspective from, why me as to, like, okay, I'm in this situation right now. I know it's not forever. I'm gonna make the most out of this situation. So that's like the mindset shift that I had to, shift my mind into. And, looking back, I'm grateful for that time period because it really humbled me. And, I learned a lot throughout that time period.
So when you say why me, describe that feeling to me. When you are in a place in your life and you're having to sit for a moment and you say why me. Describe that moment and that feeling for me.
I would say just because, um, you hear from coaches, you're gonna come in and be the guy right away, and you
For
know,
real.
we need you right now. We need you to play. Me being a naive 18, 17-year-old. Oh yeah, I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready.
Do it. Let's do it.
Put me in, put me on field right now. But sure, just going into the reality of it. College sports is a business, and it just caught me off guard. And like I said, that's just something I had to adjust. And um, it took a lot of growth, throughout that time period for me. And I would say, I just, like I said, I'm just grateful for that time period looking back. And yeah.
There's a flicker in your life that happened. Okay. Now, in this moment, you go from being a guy that had to sit a whole year, but then you get another 3 to 4 years where things are just, it's popping for you. How did you channel and flip that switch to understand that from freshman year, I sat my butt down, and for the next 5 years, I'm going to play? How did you flip that switch?
I would say, like I said, throughout that period of waiting, um, you know, I just, I told myself like I came here to play, and so I made it up in my mind, that following spring of my first year, my freshman year, that like I was gonna apply myself the best I could, the way I eat, the way I train, playbook, off the field as well, like where academically, everything, and it paid off. Like, that um that following season, like I was a starter, and I never looked back since then. So, I'm definitely grateful for that time.
But what was the one thing in your mind that was like every time you went to that field when you didn't play that freshman year, that was like, I gotta get on this field? Like, how did you channel those thoughts? Because there's a switch inside of us athletes when you're not getting the one thing that you actually want.
Yeah.
So, how did you go to the field and channel those emotions and channel those different things that was inside of you that was like, I gotta get to where I'm trying to go, and ain't nobody gonna stop me? Because there's a lot of people that have that mindset and they don't get an opportunity for the switches to flip. How did yours flip?
I would say like just experiencing like a Division 1 football game on the sidelines, just seeing the crowd cheering, and every athlete, every kid growing up wants to hear their name called on the big jumbo screen or jumbotron, whatever, or by the announcer or whatever you wanna say. And so like just experiencing that, but from the sidelines, it added some more feel, you know that following off season. So it was just definitely like an eye-opener experience, especially my first college game, just experiencing everything, the bright lights, the crowd, the noise level, the pregame festivities. Like it was just like I was like, yeah, I gotta like this gotta be my spot next year. So like that was kind of like one of the things I would say that kind of, helped me really lock in.
And for the next 3 years, your career takes off, right?
Yeah.
Next 3 years, your career takes off, and you have one more year. But that last year, you don't decide to stay at Georgia Southern. you decide to make another change in your life. Why did you decide to transfer to West Virginia?
I would say just because, and I always hold Georgia Southern, dear to my heart,
For sure.
but I just feel like I did what I needed to do at Georgia Southern, and I was ready to take that next step into playing, at a bigger school, and you know, yeah, I was just ready to take that next step, and I had graduated from Georgia Southern, and I just I was just ready. I felt ready, and I feel like I checked off all the blocks at Georgia Southern that I needed to, check off. So
How did you know you was ready? Like what boxes did you feel as though that you checked off to say like this is the next cycle in life I'm ready to turn my tables and go to?
yeah, I would say, just the way that I, started from the bottom and worked my way to the top and just with the consistency throughout my career. And I would just say that that's a part that you can say was a block that I checked off, and as well as graduating. And I just felt like after prayer and obviously speaking with my family, I felt it was best to go ahead and take that next step.
Mm. And when you got to Georgia Southern, you went from a really good school to another level school that's brought more fans, more people, more signatures, more distractions.
Yeah,
How do you, when you first walk into West Virginia, channel your emotions to say, was it 1 or 2? It was 1, 2 years?
2 years.
2 years. So how do you channel your emotions to say, I got 2 years to make the best out of this to try to get to where I'm going?
It was definitely like a wow moment when I first got to West Virginia because growing up, I used to watch this safety. His name is Carl Joseph. We're similar. We have similar statures, and he just plays the game with a level of intensity that is unmatched. And so, being able to go to a school and where he played, and take guys like Tavon Austin, Bruce Irvin. The list goes on and on. Like you can be here all night talking about West Virginia greats, but like just having the opportunity to play at a school like West Virginia, it was like surreal. So, I had to really it took me a little minute to really settle in and, um, just play ball and do what I came up there to do, and because there's a lot of distractions, a lot of, different things going on at a school like that, like a really big school like that. And, it took some time to get kind of more used to it, but once I settled in, at the end of the day, football is football.
So I want to pause on your story for a second. And I want to see all your life, you've been in the spotlight. You go from one spotlight, you just sit for 1 year and you go to another spotlight, right? But each spotlight you go to, it grows, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Do you feel like at one point that you were so focused on football that your identity was in football?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, I mean, it was almost like, I eat, sleep, breathe football, yeah, I could definitely say that my identity, you know, during, that time span was, football.
How did you, when do you feel like, before we push to the end of West Virginia, but like when did you feel like your identity was in football? Or do you feel like you never really knew until you had to be sit down?
I never really knew until, I had to be sat down.
So without saying everything that football gave you, right? What all has football given you?
I say, if I had to say just like one thing,
Yeah.
I would say life lessons.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
And with the different life lessons, how do you feel like you're able to just maneuver through life now?
Um, Definitely I'm equipped, you know, with more characteristics as I went on in my career, in college and, throughout high school and whatnot. But definitely more equipped, facing adversity. The game of football teaches you a lot. Like I can go on and on, organization, time management, you know, just attacking life. I say, like I said, I can go on and on, but those are some of the things off the top of my head I can, say.
So you go to West Virginia and the lights get brighter, right? And at this moment, like how you said, your identity was kind of wrapped around in football, right? How much deeper did your identity go into football when you got to West Virginia? Just with all the noise, the autographs, the sign, and people calling your name, you becoming a star, you making that big hit, and the stadium was way bigger than Georgia Southern, and it's go, ooh, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
how much more deeper did your identity get stuck into football?
Um, I would say like it was definitely more like serious. Like I felt like um it was just football, football, football. Like that's all I was really focused on. Like I was just, especially at a bigger school, because you know, the more, the bigger the school, the more eyes is on you, the more distractions, the more you know media, the more everything. So you know what comes with that is just a lot of noise, outside noise, and fans, this, that, and the third. And I was just in it, and I never really realized like how like much I was just so much football, football, football. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that you were in so much deep into football, football, football because at a young age they instill in you that like you got to be able to log in, you got to be able to focus, you got to be able to craft this thing, you got to be able to work it the way you best know how to work it to get to where you're trying to go.
I wouldn't really say that,
Okay.
but I would say like just looking up to other guys, older guys, that I want aspired to, have similar careers. Like I just, was so locked in, on, football, 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 getting there, to where they were able to, you know, um, be in their careers. And so that just was my mindset.
So you go to West Virginia for 2 years, you ball out, you set goals to get to where you're trying to go, right? But there's a time in your life where, you prepared your whole life for this moment. And now, the NFL draft is up. Take me through that day when the NFL draft is up and, did you even have people call you? Agents call you? Did you have an agent? Take me through them days.
Man, like them days, like, so I have an agent, I had an agent at the time. I still had the same agent.
Yeah.
And, I had, different agents calling me or whatever throughout the process, the draft process or whatever. And I went with, the agent that I currently have now. And, leading up to the draft, I had teams calling me. I went to, a senior game. I had meetings with teams and, the whole nine and whatnot. And, a couple days before the draft, I had some teams like that were more interested, that were, actually calling my phone, making sure that they had the right number, for draft day and all this, that, and the third. And, I was excited. Like, I was like, this is finna get real. Like, like they really calling my phone, making sure that they got the right, contact information for me, for draft day, So, it was a great feeling leading up to the draft. And, you know, um, draft day came around and, it was quiet. Wasn't hearing nothing. Day one was over with. Then day two came around, you know, still quiet, wasn't really hearing anything. Then day three came around and, I'm thinking, okay, this is definitely my day. Like, then I didn't hear anything. And, you know, I'm just, I was just speechless. I was shocked, because I had teams, like I said, calling me days before the draft, you know, hey, is this Anthony Wilson? We want to make sure that this is, the right contact, phone number, and whatnot. And so, like, it just caught me off guard, like, and it really, like, after the draft, like, I didn't know like what to do. Like I was just like I was just in a shock. Like, I was shocked. Like it caught me off guard for real. Like so
So for the first time in your life, somebody didn't choose you.
yeah.
And I know the nerves going through draft day was crazy.
Yeah.
How did it feel that somebody didn't choose you?
It was definitely like a new feeling. Um, you know, it was definitely a new feeling and, I just it was nothing I could do at the time.
So what did it feel like when for the for the past 5 or 6 years, you showed your talents. You went to every stage. Only 1 year in your life you sat down. In the next 4 to 5, you showed your talents. You showed what you could do. You showed that you were a baller. And for the first time in your life, it felt like everything was out of your hands. What was the next step when you didn't get a call?
Man, I ain't gonna lie, like it was tough. It was a lot of, just trying to figure out what was going on. And I knew I couldn't do anything about it. But looking back, I gotta give all the glories to God for that, situation. He was the only one. Other than, obviously my parents and, my close relatives and, my support system. But, you know, God really sat me down and humbled me throughout that whole process. And like he showed me that football wasn't my identity. I'm Anthony Wilson. Like that's me. That's who I am. I'm a child of God. And I'm just blessed to be able to have the abilities to play the game of football that God, gave to me. And so, throughout that time, at first it was very tough because, I was frustrated. Like, um, I was like real shut off from the world. I didn't want to really do much. I just was just trying to wrap my head around it, just because this was new to me. Like this was my first time not playing ball, like, and it was tough for sure. But like I said, I got over it as far as, just you know, sitting around and, I got more spiritually connected to, Jesus Christ. And, you know, I started seeing changes in the way I am as a person, which is the most important thing. Um, and I just like my relationship with Jesus is like, the most important thing to me, to this day. And throughout that time of him humbling me, sitting me down, like I feel like that was his reasoning, for that, just for him to, tell me to just take a deep breath. Football is not you. You are you. You are just blessed with the abilities and the talents to play this game of football. But your identity is not football. At the end of the day, you're Anthony Wilson. Like, you're not Anthony Wilson, football player. You're Anthony Wilson who may play football, but at the end of the day, you're Anthony Wilson. And so, it was a lot of, spiritual, um, spiritual, things going on at this time and a lot of growth, you know, you know, to the point where I'm at now, and I feel like, um, now I'm not, where I ultimately, I'm going to be as a man of God, but I'm way better than I was before, and that's all I had to be, thankful for. That's all I can ask for because, you know, who knows without God, like I don't know what I would have done, throughout that time period. And so like I'm just very grateful for that, that time period looking back, and it's really helped me to grow and just develop into a whole person.
So I want to push back on your journey a little bit. I understand becoming a man of God. I understand you praying and you figuring out your identity and it's not being in football. But I want to go back to those days, this whole year process where, probably got a call here and there. You probably didn't get a call. I want to go back to those days where, you probably had to figure it out that maybe football could be over for you. How did you navigate your mindset to keep believing that it wasn't gonna be over? Because that's a hard place. That's a
Yeah.
hard place to be in when you know that you may not get that call again. That's a hard place to be in where you really gotta really truly like a lot of people say trust God, but you gotta really trust God when you don't a phone is not ringing off the hook. You gotta go into this and I always say I said this in one of my episodes that playing football and being in the world is two different things. Because when you play football, you work out, you grind, and that's it. That's really it. You know what I mean? And you gotta excel. Working a 9 to 5, you ain't making multiples of money, as fast as you are. So my question to you is, how did you be able to believe? Like what did belief look like for you? In the days where it was uncertainty, what did your belief look like?
Yeah, it was just like one of them things where um I just kept pushing, like kept persevering. Like I didn't know what was ahead of me. I had, my agent telling me, he's still talking to teams and whatnot. My family support system telling me just to keep going. But ultimately me, you know, I just I kept persevering through the strength of God. Like if God wanted me to stop, I wouldn't have kept going. Like they wouldn't have been in my spirit, in my will spirit, like just to keep pushing, keep working out, staying in shape. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's really all God, honestly, like just to keep working out, keep staying in shape, stand on top of things, each and every day. And so, that's really all God, honestly. Like, like you said, I like, people say trust God, but like when you really go through the fire, like like you really feel it. Like you really gotta trust God. Like it's not in your hands. It's all in God's hand and it's all in God's timing, most importantly. Like we as humans, we can't rush God's timing, even though we want things when we want it. But maybe we're not ready, we're not equipped with the things that we need to um, have for that blessing. You gotta look at it, in ways like that. So it was all God, like I said, just that will to keep pushing, each and every day, even when I really sometimes I didn't know if this was worthless or I mean pointless or what, So that's what I'll say as far as that.
So what did it mean for you? So what were you doing during that time? You was working out and you was working. What was you working at that given time?
I was working at Hertz, yeah, car rentals.
So how did it feel at that given time where you had to just sit back and make different type of money? Because making quick money and going to hit somebody in the head and making hers money is two different types of money. How did that humble you?
Yeah, it definitely humbled me. Really just clocking in, look such a little thing like that, just clocking in on an actual job, like it was new to me because I never, had to do that. Like football was my job, you know what I'm saying? And so like it was just a different experience and it was just new to me and it was very humbling, I would say. And so like yeah, it didn't feel right clocking in to a a job.
That's
Like
real.
it didn't feel right. But yeah,
How were you able to go to that job every day and still keep believing to know that like
man,
things are going to work out for you?
like God, like getting in that word, like that's the most important thing I say that helped me. Just getting in that word and reading, more of God's word and the Bible, and it's really helped. Seeing other people and how God has worked in their lives in the Bible, just applying that same faith to my life, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I would say like, yeah, just reading that Bible, staying in that word, staying encouraged, being careful and prone to, what I receive, what I listen to, stuff like that.
So what does it mean in now in your life to be a man of God?
Mm.
How does that look on you now that you know that your identity is not in the world and it's not in football, but it's in who you are and who God's created you to be?
Yeah, I'll say being a man of God, it doesn't mean you're perfect. Like, God doesn't call us to be perfect. He wants us to be clean. And by clean, I mean just coming as you are. Because, God, he died on the cross for us, so that we may have life again and be born again through him. And so being a man of God isn't about being perfect. It is about having everything together, but it's just knowing where your strength comes from and knowing where, um, your help and your strength comes from, and just knowing that, you know, you serve the life that God has given you. It's not your life, it's God's life. You know, everything that we have is God's. Like God is the reason, you know, we're on this podcast right now. Like everything, I feel like with being a man of God is just how can you glorify God? How can you live out your purpose through God? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I say. It's not about being perfect. I will reiterate that. Nobody's perfect. We're all born sinners. So um, I definitely will, say that it's not about being perfect. It's just about being real and just being yourself and just relying on God, through your weaknesses, because when we are weak, we are strong through him.
Yeah. So how do you, in this place now, get to a place where you are able to put God first? Like, how does that look when you're playing football and you're also putting God first?
Yeah,
What are ways that you show that you're putting God first and not just like working out and just playing the game? Like, how are you putting God first?
um, I would say, and don't quote me on this, but I'm just paraphrasing, and it's a Bible verse that says like, work as you're working for God and not for man. That's just something that, has stuck with me since I, read it. And, just like I said, doing everything for the glory of God. I want to put my best foot forward. That way, you know, whatever God has for me, it's gonna be me being the instrument to um to be used in God's glory. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever it may be, it could be, football, it could be, how I take out the trash, how I, greet somebody, how I talk to somebody. Like I want it to show and give God glory, because at the end of the day, he did something that no other person, had done for us. So I would say, yeah, I would say that just doing everything purposefully and with intention.
So, in this past year in your life, you was working at Hertz. Let me walk you back. I got a moment on my pod where I walk you back through your whole life, okay?
Yeah.
You was a child that was from Columbia, South Carolina, and you started playing football. And in the mix of you playing football, you were in a space where, you know, the light was on you. I mean, since you played for the Seminoles, cutting in and out of, the holes, the light was on you. You was the guy. You go to Hammond as a freshman, you play varsity, correct?
Yeah.
And you was the guy there, right? So you play varsity for 2 years. You go to Spring Valley to another bigger school, right? Because you felt like at Hammond, I'm pretty sure that you felt like you did all you could. You go to Spring Valley, you walk in a room, you compete with bigger guys, you compete with, you at a 5A school, and your junior year, we're going on a big run to the fourth round playoffs, and there you're the guy, right? And on defense, you're the guy. Then you become a 3-star athlete through all your hard work. You get to Georgia Southern. You sit for a couple of months, a year, basically, right? But the junior to senior year, you're the guy, right? Then you go to West Virginia, 2 years, balling. Big, I mean, you got a chance to play in the Panther Stadium. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're that dude going through. And for the first time in your life, God set you down. He had to show you that football wasn't the identity of who he created you to be, right? What would you say to somebody that they're sitting at home right now and they're trying to figure out how to keep pushing and how to keep believing in God when things are not working out for themselves?
Me personally, I would say, um, I feel like a lot of us, we only praise God when things are going our way. And what we need, what we should do is, praise God at all times, because like I was saying, like we want things our on our timing, our way, and we may not be ready for that. Like, and that's how I see, how God sat me down. I might not have been ready to play professional ball, last year. Who knows what could have happened if God would have gave me what I wanted right then and there. You know what I'm saying? So throughout that time, I was able to build more characteristics, grow spiritually, you know, work on myself and, you know, really see how much I needed God in my life and rely on him daily, like literally day to day. Like I literally talk to him 24/7. Like it's a relationship. Like it's not like a religious thing. It's a relationship. And that's all he wants. He just wants you. You know what I'm saying? You to be you. But um, you know, I would say to someone I would just say like,
Girl, take your time.
I would just say, man, just keep pressing. Like stay in the word of God because God does everything for a reason. And, I didn't know what the reasoning was for um my time of, sitting down, but looking back now, God blessed me, you know, with more than I could ask for. Like I never would have thought I'd be playing in the CFL Canadian Football League, and it's just the things that I was able to acquire as a man, a young man of God, like throughout that process is way more valuable than any other blessing that God could have blessed me with. And so I would just want someone to know like everything is for a reason, like literally like it's for a reason, it's for a purpose. So walk in that purpose, be where your feet are. And, at the end of the day, God will show you. If God say he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it like 100%. It may not be when you want it or the way that you want it, but it's gonna happen. And don't try to, figure out how, because we can't figure out God. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say to somebody. Just keep going, be where your feet are, and walking your purpose. Like just walk where you are right now. Like just be where you are right now and just keep pressing because your time is gonna come.
So you would say that where you are is enough. Do you feel like God reached you where you were? He just reached around and just helped you exactly where you were, or you feel like you had to go meet him somewhere?
I definitely had to. You talking about like looking back?
No, I'm saying like just in your life in general, right? A lot of people say that God will meet you exactly where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think God met you exactly where you were in your life, or you feel like you had to go find him somewhere?
And I feel like
For you personally.
me personally, I feel like I had to go. Okay, I had to go seek harder. I put it like that. I had to really, really put my heart into it. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I just really had to surrender to God. You know what I'm saying? Like and once I surrendered to God, like everything just kept adding on to me, like blessings on blessings. So like that's why I feel like um that's what I feel like I had to do. I just really had to put my heart into it. But everybody's different. Everybody's situation is different. God will meet you, where you are. Cause like I said, we don't have to be perfect. We're not perfect. We're human. We're sinners. But at the end of the day, like as long as your heart posture is in the right, place, then that's all that, matters to me.
You just said something that just kind of just poked my ears up. You said you had to seek harder.
Yeah.
What does seeking harder look like? For someone that doesn't know, or someone that feels like, I'm seeking God, I'm asking God, I'm praying, I'm fasting. Like,
Yeah.
what does seeking harder looks like, and that you got to really put your heart into it?
I feel like seeking God, like to me, means like, okay, you might go to church, but are you living like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. And I'm not saying, we gotta be robotic, and all this, that, and the third, but like is your if your intentions are good and you're pure in heart, like I feel like that's all that you can ask for or all that God asks for, from us because like I could say like or I could post or say that a verse on social media or something like that and am I really living this way? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like So I just feel like you gotta just basically like own up to your word, own up to what you receive, in the word, and just like live it to the best that you can. Put it like that. Like I said, we're not gonna be perfect. We may fall, but a righteous man gets up 7 times. So uh, that's what I feel like it's about. As far as seeking harder, like just trying your best to be the best person that God, wants you to be, and just continue to keep pushing if you fall.
So I want to push. I'm getting ready to close the show, but I want to push it to the end. All right. After this full year, you worked out every day. How many days did you work out?
Man, I can't count that much.
You can't count that much. You worked out a full complete year, and we talked, and you said you never missed a day.
Mm-mm.
And I want to know, without all the days that you worked out, and you got that phone call that the opportunity was getting ready to give to you, what did that feel like?
It was like surreal because I actually was at work when I got the phone call, and like I wasn't able, like my mind wasn't. It didn't even feel real. Like it just like it was like, man, like I was just speechless. I couldn't even like really work no more. I wanted to just leave. When I got that call, I was ready to leave. Like, but um, you know, just all the things leading up to, getting that call, it made it that much more worth it, and that much more of me appreciating, the little things, that I may not have appreciated a year ago, every day, you know, um, just playing ball, just being able to put the cleats on again, go to a facility, have meals for you, different things and that come with, playing football. And so it makes that appreciation even greater, and it just shows how God like works and God moves. Like I could really talk about God, in my situation all night, but it's just amazing. Like the ways that he does things, like it just will catch you off guard. Cause like I said, I was at work, man. Like I was at work, like I didn't expect, that phone call, but it happened, and um like I was just not mind blown, but it was just like very like it caught me off guard, I say. So that's why um I was saying that we shouldn't try to figure out how God is gonna do it, because if he say he gonna do it, he gonna do it. So that's what I say.
And what did you end up signing to again?
The Toronto Argonauts,
Sorry,
CFL.
how do you go in Toronto or Canada or whatever you want to say? How do you go in that place and show your ability all over again, but through the light of God? Because the light changes.
Yeah.
The light is no longer about you. It's about serving the purpose of who
Mhm.
God is. So how do you go in and show God's light?
I say, I would say, just whatever light or however God wants to exalt me, I want to deflect it on him, because it's not me. It's not through my strength. It's through his strength. You know what I'm saying? Like it's through him. So, um, whatever ways God wants to use me, um, as far as, purpose and platform, just having that, a big platform, playing in the league like that. Um, I'm like, people not gonna be able to get me to shut up about God, like put it like that. Like I'm just gonna, you know, um, just do the best that I can to give him glory through all things that I do. It don't matter how many tackles, pick sixes, interceptions, whatever. Like it's all going back to God, because God sat me down to build me up. And so that's what I feel like, you know, a part of his plan was for me, just to, sit me down, to humble me so that he can, rewire, my mind, and, how I think, and just knowing that my reliance is in him, my strength is in him.
I want you to take a moment and say something to yourself. Take a moment and say something to yourself and motivate yourself for this next chapter that you're getting ready to walk into. Because you got a couple more weeks. So if you can say anything to yourself to motivate yourself to walk into this next chapter, what would you say to yourself?
I would say, you know, run your race and um, just keep God first, trust God, and you know, as far as the work ethic side of it, I would say um, continue to do with what got you to this point. You know, don't stop. Just keep elevating, and you know, God's purpose will be revealed through you. So that's what I say to myself.
Man, I thank you for coming onto this platform and just like share your story and share the different, mountains and valleys that you had and just knowing that like you found God in this space is big because a lot of people don't usually get an opportunity to find God till it's truly taken away.
Yeah,
And some people don't even get an opportunity to find God at all because some people believe that it's God's fault that they're not where they are. So I'm kind of happy that, you understand that your identity is not in yourself, it's in God and we're created. And just knowing that it is going to take you super far in life, especially where you're getting ready to be here. And I pray that, like, no doubt that, you get everything that you're praying for, that you get to the lead and you get exactly what you're praying for. You could just continue to keep changing people's lives.
for sure, for sure. I appreciate you.
No problem, man. No problem. Again, I thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you, big dog.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Shift. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And again, remember that your life can be impacted not only here, but out there. And just remember, the shift is happening and it's happening now. We out. Peace. Okay. I
So,
appreciate you, bro.
so,
Appreciate you for
so,
coming on.
so,
Yeah, no
appreciate you.
problem, bro.